Greetings, programs. NeoMegaMan back again for part 8 of Let's Play Katawa Shoujo Rin's Path. Oh boy, this looks familiar, doesn't it? Happens on every path, might as well get it over with now. I can tell from the envelope that it's not about official matters of any sort. Someone actually wrote me an old-fashioned handwritten paper letter. Who bothers doing something like that in this day and age anyway? Yet, as unlikely as the prospect of receiving one sounds, there's definitely a letter lying on my desk. The classes for the day are over. Still feeling pretty full from the big lunch that I had unexpectedly eaten at the cafeteria, I returned to my dorm, planning on finishing my homework and probably skipping dinner or at least just eating light. I feel like I need to eat less than I used to. Maybe I don't have used that much energy now that I don't do much beyond reading. However, the letter on my desk has naturally caught my interest. It's the first piece of mail I've received here at Iwanako, so it'd feel special even if it wasn't something as rare as a handwritten letter. What causes me even more trepidation is the name of the sender written neatly on the back of the envelope. Iwanako. I have no idea why she would write to me. I haven't been in contact with anyone from my old school since I transferred, and Iwanako was the last person I would expect to want to write me a letter. The last time I saw Iwanako was terribly awkward, embarrassingly so. She came to my hospital room, peeled me an apple out of courtesy, and then we practically sat in silence for half an hour. She said goodbye and didn't look me in the eye when she closed the door. It might have been a natural end to the series of visits that were probably pretty painful for both of us. Every time she visited me in the hospital, I wanted to talk to her, but something stopped me every time. Every time that I didn't speak made the next time even harder. Iwanako always had this aura of fragility about her, as if she'd shatter into pieces at the slightest disturbance. Initially, I think it might have been that delicacy that attracted me to her, but after what happened back then, it felt as if she really had shattered. She looked so sad that I didn't want to say anything that might upset her, and I never could figure out the right words to say. I told her that it wasn't her fault. She nodded, and I really think she understood that if it hadn't been that, then sooner or later something else would have made my heart give out. Yet she looked so hopelessly sad every time she opened that door and entered my room. So I never managed to say the things that I wanted to say. In the end, that might have hurt her even more. Carefully, I opened the envelope and drew out the folded letter from within. Dear Hisao, how are you? I hope you're well and happy at your new school. Everyone here misses you. Almost all of our second-year class got put together in Class 3-1 for the final year, so we're pretty comfortable right from the beginning of the year. I'm sure you would have been assigned to this class as well. The mood among the third years seems to be very anxious about final exams, even though they're so far away. The teachers are badgering us about it all the time. Even old Mr. Tachibana, who is, by the way, our homeroom teacher this year. Would you believe it? I was sure that he'd retire after our second year, but here he is, nagging everyone about studying for exams. I think that things like that are the main reason why the mood among the third years is so nervous. I must admit that I'm somehow losing confidence in myself as well, even though I've always fared reasonably well with exams. It's so weird to think that we're already seniors, isn't it? Time has really flown past. I wonder where it went. The new first years seem so young and somehow really innocent. I keep wondering if I was like them in my first year. I've been feeling nostalgic like this for the whole first trimester. There are other things I want to say. I'm writing to you because I felt that there are things that I should have said after the incident back in winter. I really regret that I wasn't able to say them in person, and I have no excuse for it. The truth is, the times I visited you at the hospital made me very worried about you. I'm not talking about your health. You seemed to become more distant and disheartened. It was natural after something like that happened, I'm sure, but somehow I got the feeling that you'd given up on something back then. Happiness, maybe? I wanted to somehow express my feelings, but the right words didn't come to me. I couldn't say anything to comfort you. I'm really sorry for not being able to support you when it mattered the most, even though I like you so much. At least now finally I can be more honest. If I could go back to those quiet days in February and March, I'd tell you not to give up on yourself. That's what I would say. Maybe you wouldn't have drifted so far away if I had just said something. I hope you managed to get back on your feet on your own. Now that the distance between us is also physical, it feels more final somehow. I wonder if we'll meet again. Perhaps it's for the best if we don't. Still, if you would like to correspond with me, by all means write me back. I'd very much like to hear about your new school and how you're doing. I wish you all the best. Sincerely, Iwanako. After finishing reading the letter, I fold it like it was and place it on my desk. I don't know what to think of this. I feel empty and confused. Why now? After all this time? Just yesterday, I decided that I can't let myself stay like this. That I'd try to get on top of my own life. Reading this letter just reminds me of what could have been. Of course I wish that I didn't have to be here. I'd want to be in the same class with Iwanako again. Maybe we could talk every day, or maybe we would talk every day now and go on dates. My life didn't go like that. I didn't really need to be reminded of this. Iwanako needed to write this letter for her own sake, and I'm glad for her that she could, but it would have been better if I hadn't read it. Of course, she is right. I thought of the same thing yesterday. I'd fallen into a pit of depression, and now I have to try to climb out. I rip out a page from my notebook, and after a moment of thinking how to frame my words, I write a short reply to Iwanako. I find it difficult to be really honest with her, but at least I can try to appear somewhat convincing. I don't write her about Yamako at all. I doubt she'll write me again, but I don't feel all sad about it. I don't feel at all sad about it. I fold my own letter to her, and as I have no envelope, set it next to Iwanako's. I'll mail it to her later. Then I lie back on my bed, looking at the monotone gray ceiling. A bird sings outside of my window, and a sudden gust of wind flutters my curtains. The summer afternoon feels still, as if time had stopped for a brief moment. I think about all the things I've lost and will never regain. I could have fit that in the last episode. Oh well. Thus the languid days of mid-June pass by. I mail my letter to Iwanako and receive no reply. Having decided to ditch the old me, I start observing my fellow students even closer than I did before, hoping to understand how other people cope with their own issues. I start seeing things I didn't before, and it makes me wonder if I've been wrong twice. Superficially, everyone is abnormal, yet so strikingly normal that it shocked me at first. I admired the way my new schoolmates turned my prejudices around just like that, simply by being themselves. Now that I've gotten used to it, I begin noticing other kinds of tones in the people surrounding me every day. There's this soft, numb sadness all around me. I can see the effort everyone has to make just to get through the day, and how it weighs on their shoulders like it weighs on mine. Even the brightest smile is just slightly subdued, every outburst of annoyance just slightly dampened. It's subtle, but it's definitely there. I try to think what that means, what I can learn from others. I wonder if deep down everyone is as lost as I am. Is there even one person here who has truly found peace? I start to feel doubtful about myself once again. I can't decide whether these people are happy, unhappy, or if they've just learned to cope and now live in an unfeeling limbo like I did all spring. I escape from these feelings into the towering pile of books I carry to my room from Yuko's sanctuary. After realizing that this will just shut me down even more, I start going to the art club's room more often, usually whenever I can. Oops, there we go. Rin, too, seems to spend more time in there than in her own classroom. I've often seen her totter towards the door at the very end of the corridor. That wooden door in the room behind it, smelling of paint and paper, seemed to mean more to her than the rest of the world combined. She says she has special permission to use the room, which I don't doubt at all. I don't think Nomiya would deny Rin anything. He seems to dote on her like an uncle upon a favorite niece. The object of his affection, however, has no favorites. She says she appreciates the teacher a lot for going the extra mile for her sake, but even when she says that, her expression is the same as always. It's as if she was talking about a particularly unremarkable rock that she saw the other day. I can't really figure out their relationship. Rin doesn't seem to let anyone close. I don't think even Emmy could say she's crossed the gap that seems to separate Rin from the rest of the world. I don't understand it. She seems so indifferent, yet so passionate at the same time. Somewhere the school bells ring the last call of the day. I realize that I've been zoning out for God knows how long. Dazed, I sit up straighter, trying to look as inconspicuous as possible. The pungent smells of linseed oil and turpentine mix in my nostrils as I draw a deep breath. I feel drowsy and lightheaded. It's already this late and a few club members left early. So it's just me, Rin, the teacher, and two other girls who are also about to leave. Rin is sitting to my right, slowly working on a painting while I'm idling the time away. I don't think she realizes I've been watching her this whole time. With a nimble move of her delicate ankle, she dips the brush into the crimson paint and presses it lightly onto the canvas. A stain spreads around as if the brush was bleeding. Her progress is slowed down to a crawl. By now I've learned that this is dangerous for her technique, as the paint must not be allowed to dry before she's finished. It occurs to me that I'm literally watching paint dry. And yet somehow I'm not feeling bored despite spacing out just now. Most of the time the art club is very relaxed and freeform, apart from times when Nomi gets really excited about some technique or style he wants to teach us about. Everyone is free to pursue their own pursuits, or pursue their own interests. Lacking one, I keep floating around without a direction. I try this and that, but nothing really leaves me with a deeper impression, not to mention that I don't seem to have a special knack for anything. Well, I did get praise for my attempt at watercolors, so I felt pretty good about that myself, but that's it. I suppose it's to be expected. I joined the art club mostly on a whim, after all. I'm thinking that maybe I should quit the club, as if it's going to be that pointless. But there's nothing really wrong with pointlessness, and I can't exactly say I'm unhappy. Unsatisfied, maybe, but I've only got myself to blame for that. As the pair of girls exits the club room with a cheerful bye-bye. Bye-bye! Nomiya stands up from his desk. His chair scoots back with a loud screech that breaks the harmony of this quiet afternoon. He taps a pile of papers in his hands twice against the tabletop in order to straighten them and stretches his back. I have a faculty meeting to attend, so I can't stay. I'll have to do some paperwork later, so if you want to stay, we can talk then. Sorry about this. There are two people here, but he's really only talking to one of us. Nomiya spends extra hours of his time mentoring Rin after official club hours are over. And I'll bet he'd like to discuss his plan of getting Rin's art into the gallery a little more. It's alright. I think I'll probably be here, but it's not a big deal if I'm not. I don't really have much going now. Rin answers without moving her eyes from her work in progress. The tone of her voice is neither the polite kind expected when talking to a teacher, nor her usual monotone. So I won't need to send a search party if you aren't here? Yes, no thanks. I don't like to party. We can talk later. Good girl. Smiling, the teacher picks up the rest of his papers and makes his way to the door. I glance at the clock above it and then at my watch to double check. They're 3 minutes apart, but nevertheless the club meeting's time is over for now. Rin seems intent on staying here to work on her piece while waiting for the teacher. I can't quite imagine what their one-on-one time would be like. Would they actually discuss anything? Rin is always so subdued in what she says, and when she does say something, it's difficult to understand what she's talking about. Maybe Nomiya just talks endlessly like he does at club meetings, letting Rin absorb what she will from his infinite well of art knowledge. Like a sunflower turning to face the glowing sun. Do you mind if I stay? I thought maybe I'd give watercolors another try. I blurt out the excuse sort of accidentally, embarrassing myself. Rin doesn't take her eyes off her painting. Okay. I shift around in my chair, and then get to fetching a cup of water, brushes, colors, and some paper. The sound of my footsteps invades the still afternoon air. Before starting, I try to recall what the teacher told us, an important philosophy of the medium. Working with watercolors means more working with water than working with color. I try to keep that in mind and dip my tiny sable brush into the water cup. I'm mixing yellow and blue, trying to capture the sunlit treetops of the outside the window. The sun is low, so the yellows are more pronounced and everything looks darker. I still can't quite connect what I see with what my hand does with the paints, but it's a passable attempt for my level. After a while, I start losing my focus and move the paper aside, deciding to watch Rin work for a while instead. That little while stretches first into a long while, then into a really long while. Rin paints, her entire being fully concentrated on the brush between her slender toes and the painting coming to life in one stroke at a time. She seems determined and yet at the same time relaxed, effortlessly moving the brush around, never hesitating. Colors meet and part, mix and cover each other on the canvas, bending to her quiet will. I don't know anything about composition, structure, or any of that stuff, but I really like Rin's paintings. I like how she looks when she paints. As usual, the silence between us compels me to speak rather than merely wait for her to open up. She might end up saying nothing at all. Do you mind if we talk? I don't mind. I kind of wanted to ask more about why you get so weird about this thing the teacher wants to arrange for you. Rin picks up a tube of paint and squeezes it between her toes on a palette almost as easily as someone with opposable thumbs would. Taking up a brush again, she replies. A lot of things. And some not things. Unthings. I don't think that's a word. You want to talk about it? I try to reach out to her clumsily, ignoring the embarrassing feeling of awkwardness. Rin keeps her focus on the painting, spreading more and more paint on the canvas, her lips forming a perfectly straight line as she concentrates on the job. Not really. Talking is hard. I mean, it's not hard, I'm talking even now, but saying the right things is really hard for me. No matter what, I just can't say the things I want. That sounds weird. It's true. I say all kinds of things that I don't really mean all the time, and sometimes I forget words and then I use the wrong words. I've even come up with new words for things that I already have some. That's the worst thing. I get really nervous and everything comes out a mess, and even I don't really understand what I want to say. I think there's something wrong with me that makes it like this. Remember when I said I could only think of 4 things at the same time? I nod wordlessly. It's not really 4. I mean, it is 4, but everything else is also there, kind of in the background. Like being at an amusement park and a beehive at the same time. But that's not the point. I used to do better. Like 6 or 7 things. I think so, at least. I feel like I'm becoming dumber. I think everyone has times when they feel like they can't say the right things. But it's there all the time. Stronger and deeper. Yeah, deeper's a good word. I like that word. Deeper. It's that feeling of being underwater. Maybe it's just art. The more I paint, the more words I forget. Maybe at some point I'll forget how to speak completely. It feels like I'm slowly forgetting everything. Do you remember what you thought about things 3 or 4 years ago? I don't. A long pause ensues, during which time seems to bend around itself, almost tying itself into a knot. I don't think I've ever heard Rin talk this earnestly and for so long about anything before. It's like I'm fading away from the world. Rin's foot has stopped its work on the canvas, and she's staring at her painting, unmoving, as if gazing at some faraway horizon. Sunlight briefly glints in the corner of her onyx eyes. Something floats up into the top layer of Rin's being, and she lets out a long breath. Then she blinks, and it's gone. Painting stayed behind. When I look at my old things, I remember what I was thinking back when I made them. They make me feel like I can be with all the past me's when I was a different me. I guess they are the proof of my existence. She uses the exact same words Nomiya used when he spoke to us of the nature of art. I didn't think Rin was paying any attention back then. I wonder if she was listening or whether she had heard the same passionate speech from Nomiya before. Sorry. Either way, I feel overwhelmed. Boy, are you complicated. I would have taken up writing a diary. Her eyes quickly flicker to my direction and then back to the painting, but she doesn't pick up the brush anymore. That's a great idea. Why didn't I ever think of that? Are you being sarcastic? What's sarcasm? I don't call her on the joke if it is one. Right at that moment, Nomiya returns from his meeting. He waves to us in a very dramatic hello. Mildly surprised to see me here along with his pet student. Walking with a boisterous gait back to his desk, he drops his papers upon it. Picks up a handkerchief and cleans his glasses with incredibly meticulous care before walking over to us. Before he is within earshot of us, Rin says something to me in a quick, quiet voice. Change is the scariest thing in the world to me. And I seriously don't know if I want to change into a person who could do the thing the teacher wants me to do. I don't know if I could even if I wanted to. Hello again. Hello. What's going on? He smiles a bit sheepishly, looking at both of us with uninhibited interest. Ah, nothing. We were just talking about that thing with your acquaintance in the gallery for Rin's works. Sort of. Oh, any decisions? I look at Rin, who's trying to arrange the bothered expression on her face into something else. Anyway, I don't think I have much else to say other than that you should go for it. Okay. Here is the big important decision gate. One of these choices is not like the others. If I say that it isn't like her at all to hesitate like this, or that it would be exciting, we go down one particular path. This path is not completely different from the path that I'll be taking, but it is different. If I were you, I would go download the game and play that path for yourself. If you're watching this playthrough, I'll be taking a different path. I will be telling her that I think she'd be a big hit. Right? Right. I think you'd be super popular. I mean, your paintings are really amazing. And you paint with your feet. That's really cool too. I bet people will be amazed. It's not a big deal. I would paint with my hands if I had any. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean it like that. Rin turns away, looking at her painting wistfully. I want to take back what I said if it was what made her face like that. I get it. Rin looks absent-mindedly at me, not saying anything. I can't even tell if my words had any effect on her. I just don't get it. Anyone else would be jumping up and down in excitement. What's the point of doing your best, being at this art club, if you don't do anything with your talent? I'm telling you, I'm going to be angry with you if you give this up. My voice rises higher. I don't know what makes me say this. It's like I've been taken over by some force out of my control, but I really do feel angry. Images of a letter written on cute stationery flash in my mind. Images of the masked faces of my parents, my doctors. Images of the time I've wasted. They mix into my feelings about Rin like a torrent of molten iron. I want to continue, but Rin suddenly stands up. Fine. I'm going. She trots out of the room without anyone saying anything, and I stare after her, still seating, though with the voice of rationality in the back of my head, wondering if I made her angry as well. The teacher lets out an embarrassed but extraordinarily loud laugh. You care a lot for her, don't you? Nomiya looks at me over his circular pink glasses, smiling sympathetically. Yeah, he's got rose-colored glasses, if you hadn't noticed. Whoops. You've made friends with her then, Nakai? Well, something like that, I guess. Depends on how you look at it. To be honest, I'm not really sure. It's more like me and Rin just tend to hang around each other irregularly, talking or not about something that more often resembles some twisted mockery of philosophy rather than normal, everyday things that friends chat about. Well, that's good, isn't it? You're a new student, and we should be promoting integration into the student body and such. I can't remember all the buzzwords they spew at faculty and Iwanako Foundation meetings, but that's how it is. Tezuka isn't the most social person around these parts either. Yeah, that's definitely true. So she's talked about my suggestion to you? Oh, no, not really. I think it's more been me pressing her to decide something. Maybe I shouldn't have. No, I'm sure it's fine. I'm too soft with her even when I shouldn't. I don't really know how to handle Tezuka. She's so independent and willful. I wonder if this is what every old geezer of an art teacher who got his hands on a young and fiery prodigy felt like. He chuckles ironically to himself a little bit, turning to face Rin's latest work with what she left drying on the easel. She departed so abruptly that I wonder if she considers it finally finished. So let's see the painting then. He leans in closer, peering at the canvas. It draws you in, doesn't it? Nomiya stands back straight, his face a dreamy, nostalgic visage. I don't answer him as he seems to be taking my agreement as a given. I sometimes stay here after hours just to look at Tezuka's paintings. She's really just prodigious, and at such a young age. I get shivers just thinking of what she could become with a few more years of refinement. You asked about what makes an artist, remember? This is it. They take a piece of the world and reshape it in their own image. Metaphorically, of course. Looking at her makes you wonder what the world looks like through her eyes. It's a wonderful thing to be young and full of passion. It's the most extraordinary time of your life. You would do well to remember that. You would do well to remember that, Nakai. Yes, sir. It's so silly. People always ask artists, where do you get your ideas? As if ideas were something sold at the market for pocket change. You can't explain inspiration. For people like Tezuka, it's like breathing. It's an instinct. I've met maybe one or two people with the same kind of raw potential, but no amount of potential will amount to anything if one doesn't work to realize it. It's practice, technique, skill. Draw for an hour every day for a few years, and even the most hopeless case can become a passable artist. Tezuka is not brilliant because she was born with a natural talent for this kind of thing. She's brilliant because she works harder than anyone, ever since she learned to hold a pen, most likely. And all of it with her feet, no less. Absolutely phenomenal. Silence finally lands in the classroom as Nomiya lets himself get drawn back into Rin's painting, gently murmuring acceptance towards the still wet canvas. What kind of things do you paint yourself? As if waking from a reverie, he looks at me, surprised by my talking to him. Oh, I don't. Not anymore. I became an art teacher only after my career in that field came to an end. Now I just pass on my knowledge to the next generation. The way Nomiya answers is curious, both giving and withholding information. I feel like asking more, but he cuts in before I get the chance. Now you should run along, my boy. It's almost dinner time, isn't it? Yes, sir. Have a good evening. You too. I quickly collect my stuff and step out into the deserted hallway, leaving the teacher alone with his musings. The weekend will be here soon enough. It's amazing how fast time flies here. I promised Emmy I'd join her for the celebration of her triumph at the track meet last week. That should be plenty of fun. Oh, do I want to get started on a new day? I think this might be a long part. Oh, nuts. Yeah, I remember this part. At least I think so. And I think I might want to take a break here. So, yeah. Okay. well, I suppose that's it for part 8 of Let's Play Katawa Shoujo Rin's Path. Thanks for watching. Yeah, that'll do it. I'm your host, NeoMegaMan, and I guess I'm signing out. End of line.